Good morning and welcome to the webinar. Today we're looking at information management and instant messaging, and we're going to be exploring some ways that your data inventory can be a better representation of a modern data flow. So just a quick introduction. Both Zane and myself are part of the product team here at RecordPoint. I'm Belinda Walsh, heading up product marketing, and I'm responsible for ensuring our customers are kept up to date on our platform and new features. We also have Zane Nelson, one of our product managers, along today, as he's been working really closely with our Microsoft Teams Connector. And he's also been working with some of our clients who have connected Microsoft Teams as a content source as part of their RecordPoint subscription. So to kick off today, I just want to cover off a few principles around instant messaging. Instant messaging apps geared towards the work environment, they allow users to not only communicate, but to collaborate in a highly efficient manner. So the benefits of these tools have quickly become obvious, and even more so over the last few years with the increase in remote work and conditions surrounding the pandemic. So they allow for that real-time communication. It's intuitive collaboration, so especially in those remote work settings, and it increases productivity, morale, and retention. So, but the reality is that these instant messaging and these synchronous collaboration tools, they are already in use, but it's often regardless of the threats involved, and they're just not being managed. So part of what we help organizations with is how they can account for these new ways of working and ensure that their data inventories are representative of a modern data flow, and they're holistic data inventories. So in the last several years, many businesses, they've adopted and relied on these business instant messaging systems to sustain their workforce communication. And as you'll see, Microsoft Teams adoption rates have seen significant upticks over the last few years. So it's risen from around 20 million users in 2019, and it's now sitting at around 270 million users in 2022. The next biggest player being Slack, reporting around 12 million plus users worldwide. Although Teams is the biggest player, there are others that are increasingly being used in the workplace, like WhatsApp, which is heavily used within a business context, especially in the European market. Workplace by Meta is another we're seeing more and more of, and it's already being used by some highly regulated organizations like some large banks, financial institutions, and pharmaceutical companies. Today, we're going to focus in on Microsoft Teams, but really the principles are the same for all of these tools, which can be connected to the RecordPoint Data Trust platform. So do instant messages qualify as a record? So around the globe, there's legislation at federal, state, local levels that give more definitive definitions of what a record is. And no doubt most of the people on the webinar here today would be very familiar with these definitions and how they relate to their own organizations. Most of these definitions include electronic and machine readable materials, and therefore instant messaging. The decision to record a certain piece of information shouldn't be dependent on the medium, be it a letter, an email, a text, or an instant message, but on its content. So organizations, they must recognize that such content may be records, and therefore it must be managed accordingly. So more recently, there have been many cases of crackdowns in record keeping failures in this instant messaging space. As recently as September 2022, the US Securities and Exchange Commission announced more than 1.1 billion in fines for dealers and brokerage firms in relation to their record keeping and instant messaging. And so that's where RecordPoint comes in. The RecordPoint platform helps highly regulated organizations ensure that all their data is right where it should be, and it's safeguarded for privacy, security, and governance. So we do this by managing data throughout its life cycle, regardless of the system it's managed in, like those instant messaging or collaboration tools. So only once you have an accurate picture of your data inventory, including these instant messaging tools, can you know where your sensitive data is, what you potentially may need to minimize, what you're going to retain, and how you're going to protect it accordingly. So now I'm going to hand over to Zane, who is going to take you through a few examples using Microsoft Teams. But remember, as I mentioned, the same principles apply to all of these instant messaging tools.
Thank you for the beautiful introduction there, Belinda. So as a product manager here at RecordPoint, we understand the importance of managing and protecting sensitive personal information. This has become even more critical and prevalent in our world with more data breaches and increased scrutiny from privacy officers and authorities than ever before. For many organizations, privacy in an instant messaging context means understanding who is sharing highly confidential information, who is sharing passwords, and are employees sharing things like personal identifiable information, which can also include adjacent information such as payment card industry information, as well as other sensitive data that would jeopardize regulatory compliance, as well as internal privacy frameworks. We need to understand that PII can creep into collaboration environments and can go and will go undetected without appropriate oversight. For this specific example, and what we have up in front of us today is what many organizations have, which is a human resources team. Now, within this, we can see in front of us that we are inside of that human resources team inside Microsoft Teams, and particularly the employee onboarding channel. What we see is two employees, Joe and Susan, having a conversation about the onboarding of a new employee, Adrian. As a part of this, they're ensuring that Adrian's employee agreement is set up correctly, as well as other corresponding items, here particularly being Adrian's share options plan. Now, within this, we can see that there was some clarification pertaining some highly sensitive information relating Adrian, particularly his social security number. Now, what we're able to thereby do in Records 365 is treat this thread as though it's a record. Where this becomes important is being able to accurately and at scale identify that this personal identifiable information, such as Adrian's social security number, has been shared inside of this Microsoft Teams environment. So now if we jump into Records 365, let's have a look at what this record looks like. We're able to navigate inside the Records 365 interface into Advanced Search, and just for simplicity of this demonstration, we'll keep it simple by simply searching on the Microsoft Teams connector. And as we do that, we're able to select the content source, which in this case is Microsoft Teams. And inside of that, we're able to see the vast amount of records that we have captured thus far. If we jump into the particular record now, we're able to see that indeed, for this particular thread, it is treated as though it is just another record. And that's the important thing here. As Belinda alluded to earlier today, records, regardless of their content source, are based upon the content in which the record has. The importance there is that regulators aren't discerning between content sources. For example, a record, whether it's created in SharePoint, whether it's created in Exchange, whether it's created in, say, even Microsoft Teams that we're going through today, it is important to remember that we need to keep all of those to be treated as though they're records. Fantastic. Let's now navigate into this particular record that we can see. Now, remembering that the record itself corresponds to the channel thread that we had inside of that Microsoft Teams channel. So what we're able to see here is another record inside of our Records 365 environment. The beauty in what we're able to see is that it is treated as though it is just another record. And with that, we have details, we have signals surrounding it, duplicates, holds, disposal, full audit history, as well as then all of the other documents associated to it. So if we jump into the binaries tab, we are able to see a discernment between the thread itself, as well as in the attached documents in that thread. What this is able to thereby do is gain a full contextualization of the record by being a complete record. Great, so if we jump into the Signals tab here, we are able to see that the personal identifiable information of that record has been picked up. What this includes is the identification there of PII having personal information, as well as the social security number. What we're able to then do with this is when we jump into things like our reporting tools as a part of the enterprise reporting suite, we're able to identify all of these sensitive informations at scale in a very digestible and understanding way that drives business value for people in the organization, such as privacy officers. Great, so we're inside of the binaries tab right now. And as we were discussing before, we do have full telemetry to that complete record. In this particular case, we are able to download the channel thread directly from Records 365. What this is able to then do is give the privacy officer full telemetry and understanding to the entire context of that conversation by storing it as a binary. Now, where this comes in is even if that particular thread was deleted, let's say in the Microsoft Teams environment, because we do capture the channel thread, we are able to keep that audit history there. Therefore, providing the privacy officer with the necessary tools they need to be able to conduct this internal investigation. Now, as we can see, this is the complete conversation, including all of the text, the details surrounding who and when, as well as all the other documents attached. Now, if we jump back into Records 365 for this particular record, we are able to see what wasn't in that thread, which is also then Adrian's employee stock options PDF. Now, let's say that we also attached a Word document and other document types. All of those would also be captured. So again, we are able to provide a complete record, which for records and information management purposes can also go through lifecycle management. Now, if we jump into our reporting tools, as we mentioned before, what we're able to do is provide this critical information for personas such as the privacy officer at scale for them to be able to easily understand, digest, and then action. So what we can see here is at a high level, for this particular example, certain sensitive information data for the Microsoft Teams environment in which this organization has. We can see that PII count is among many sites, including finance, human resources, project management, and research. We are able then to drill in more specifically into this information to be able to really discern the context surrounding this personal identifiable information. If we just jump back into that particular use case. Now, we need to understand that employee records often contain highly sensitive information such as passports, driver's license, and in this example, social security numbers. The first step in ensuring proper management of sensitive information is leveraging tools like that reporting to be able to understand if sensitive information is included in those content sources to then derive the information necessary to work out whether or not it is out of policy. With RecordPoint, this organization will have a continuous data inventory available, allowing them to have a holistic overview to their entire data corpus and being able to understand and have the tools to understand whether PII is being captured and stored as a part of their regular business as usual activities. Brilliant. So, in conclusion, what we've been able to see today in this particular use case is that we are able to ensure proper management and protection of sensitive information regardless of its data source. The Microsoft Teams Connector empowers organizations to leverage RecordPoint to continuously monitor their data sources. And the important thing here, and Belinda mentioned this earlier on today, is Microsoft Teams is just one example. And this is an example that fits into the broader picture and understanding of information management for instant messaging tools. Now, if we jump into the next use case, what we were then able to then see is a different scenario, a scenario that now pertains a local government agency who is undergoing an external investigation for a compensation claim. Now, as a part of the investigation, the agency is required to provide the investigator with a complete record, including all corresponding records, and audit history of their data, including any information that may be relevant for this particular incident. What we have up in front of us today is in fact just that. We can see that this thread, as a part of this project, demonstrates that organizations do use Microsoft Teams to relay highly sensitive and important business information that both affects their organization and other organizations. Where this becomes important is, say, in the case of an investigation, where this organization is required to provide all of this information to the external investigator. Now, I'm sure we can all understand and empathize with the fact that this is often a very difficult task for organizations to be able to complete. Data discovery, especially when we looking into messaging tools, is often nearly made impossible. So how do we solve it? How do we make it easier and able to be discovered in a timely and accurate fashion? One challenge that many organizations face in these scenarios is the fact that a large portion of their correspondence and data related to the project is stored in Microsoft Teams, making it difficult to quickly and easily provide the necessary information to investigators. Now, in this scenario, as in the scenario before, we assume that the local government agency is using RecordPoint and is connected to Microsoft Teams as a data source. We need to remember that with RecordPoint, the agency will have a continuous data inventory available, allowing them to conduct an investigation to locate any relevant documents and Teams threads related to this project and investigation to the investigators. What we're able to see in front of us now is indeed that channel thread. This thread has many attachments included that do contain personal identifiable information, sensitive information that is critical for both the investigation as well as for privacy-related purposes inside the organization. We can see that all of the attached documents in that thread are indeed inside of Records 365. This creates a complete record for both records information management purposes, but also therefore a complete data discovery purpose. They're being able to easily provide all related documents to the investigator in a timely and accurate manner. We're able to download this content and we're able to open it and see what was said as a part of this thread. We're then able to gain a full contextualization to everything relating this investigation and this particular incident in which the investigation stemmed from by having all corresponding documents easily and readily available. Because Records 365 captures the binaries, we are able to also ensure that even if a particular sensitive piece of information, potentially a picture, a PDF, or any other type of document was deleted, let's say in the source inside of Microsoft Teams, because we do capture it, we are able to there ensure full data discovery and auditability of that record. Great. So what we've been able to see here today is two particular scenarios in which RecordPoint's Microsoft Teams Connector was able to be used for both data privacy and data discovery. The importance here to remember is that just as though we did this with Microsoft Teams, RecordPoint is also able to connect into other instant messaging services that we do know other organizations are leveraging. I would now like to hand back to Belinda, and thank you very much for following through those two particular use cases.
Thanks, Zane, for taking us through those use cases. Hopefully everybody got something from those. And if anyone's interested in how the platform can help you manage your own data inventory, especially these instant messaging tools, I've got a QR code up on screen right now. So jump on that, put in your details, and we'll be in contact and can go through a deeper demo with you if you like, or send you some more information on how you could use the Microsoft Teams connector, for example, to help you with managing your instant messages as part of your overall data inventory. We're actually going to stay online for a little bit now. If anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and we're going to answer those. If we're not able to answer those straight away, we will get back to you afterwards. But we'll hang around for a little bit. But that's it for the webinar today. We just wanted to thank everyone for attending. And if anyone had any further questions, by all means, please reach out and we can help you with any questions that you might have in regards to your instant messaging platforms and how you can manage those as part of your overall data inventory. So thanks again, Zane, for joining us today. And that is it for today's webinar.